What fusion epic should you be looking to keep for this new Tatura, holiday season fusion coming up? Let's get right into it. What up team, it's MurderInc here, back with another Shadow Legends video, looking at the 4 epics for the upcoming fusions, what you should know about them, considering if you're not going to get the legendary, which ones you may want here, timestamps below as always. So we are going to start out with BroodLord here. He's a Lizardmen, epic defense-based champion here, attacks one enemy 2 times, 30% chance of provoking, decreased speed. Not too many books, I guess. 5 in the, 5 in the A1. We have 2 in the A2. Okay, so this one does have a lot of books. I lied about that completely. So the A1's okay. It's nothing crazy. Provoke, medium chance, decrease speed, medium chance there. A2, ally protection, block debuffs on one champion. One ally rather, not the greatest, also only blocks debuffs for 1 turn, so nothing too crazy. Also places a shield on this champion for 2 turns equal to 20% of this champion's max HP. Could be useful if you're still struggling with Lizardmen faction wars, but I'm pretty sure there's better options. We have an AoE stun with a 40 up to a 50% chance. If booked, the chance increases to 75 or 85% if they're under decreased speed, so some synergy with the A1 there. The passive here, pretty interesting. Whenever this champion is attacked or whenever an ally under ally protection buffs are attacked, has a 30% chance of placing decreased speed on the attacker, so even more synergy there for decreased speed. Once again, this is probably the, I don't know, maybe you can find some use if you're really early game and progressing, but overall this is probably the worst of all 4 of them, in my personal opinion. Now, we are going to be going over the next 3 epics here, part of the fusion, and this is a bit interesting here, because they're all Shadowkin. We know the Shadowkin faction crypt is going to be opening, so this is going to put a lot of players in a really tough spot here. If you want to focus on the Shadowkin crypt, you might have to skip the legendary fusion, and I'll go over that in a separate video, how good he is for your account if you do plan on using him. But I mean, listen, plarium is plarium, right? Let's go over the skills here, then I'll show you the animations. And so we have an A1 here, attacks one enemy twice, as an additional 20% of critting if the champion is under Veil or Perfect Veil buff. Moving into the A2, Silent Parting, kind of like Steel Parting for, what's his name, Genzen. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit will ignore 20% of the target's defense, as an additional 20% of a crit if the champion is under Veil or Perfect Veil again. We do have an attack-based champion here. A3, as you can assume, places Perfect Veil and increased speed buff on this champion for 2 turns, then fills this champion's turn meter by 40%. Really good way to apply that Veil, apply that increased speed, and boost this champion's turn meter by almost half. However, it's only a 2-turn duration. This would have been a lot better if it was a 3-turn duration, because you're going to get another turn, you're going to have 1 turn left, and you have 2 skills that synergize with this Veil, Perfect Veil synergy here. On top of this, we have an A3. Whenever this champion is attacked, it completely blocks 1 hit. Decrease the incoming damage to 0, then counterattacks with the default skill. So this is pretty cool when attacking a boss. Decrease the incoming damage by 50% instead before counterattacking. So pretty tanky champion, really interesting kit for an attack-based champion here. It's only a 2-turn cooldown once it's fully booked. So we have 2, let's see here, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 total books. Once again, a bit heavy on the investment here as far as aura, increases crit rate in all battles. And I don't think I showed this guy. He has increased defense in all battles. So this Shadowkin can be interesting. I don't think this is going to be game changing for Shadowkin crypt. However, it will be a viable damage dealer. It will get you through many of the early on Shadowkin crypt stages. So with that being said, let's head on over to Visionary. We do have increases ally speed in all dungeons. We have an A1 here. Now I think this is the interesting one here. 30% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%. The chance increases to 100 if the target's under decreased crit rate, decreased crit damage debuff. So those are really strong debuffs for a couple reasons. Moving into the A2, attack all enemies on a 3-turn cooldown, has a 75 up to 100% chance when booked to decrease the crit rate and decrease the crit damage on all enemies. One thing to note is most PvE content, not considering arena or anything, but most PvE content has baseline 15% crit rate, unless it states otherwise, which most of it is 15%. So by using this, you will never get crit, unless they are implying or stealing some type of increased crit rate buff. So this is pretty strong here. You're going to significantly reduce the damage you will be taking. So this can be very good. Of course, we do have the synergy here by increasing the chance to decrease the turn meter if these debuffs are active on the boss. Now we have increased crit rate and increased crit damage buff on all of your allies, and you fill the turn meters of all allies by 15%. So for an epic, it's kind of got both, increasing your team's damage. You get a small turn meter boost. It's only on a 3-turn cooldown here, which I do like. Of course, you do have to book it, but I'm pretty sure, let's see, 4 books, 5 books, that's 9, 10 books. 10 books, still kind of a lot. I know I would really love to see more 6-book champions, but not bad overall. So we have reducing damage here. We have increasing your team's damage here. So this can definitely be a viable option. So unfortunately, this champion isn't part of the Shadowkin faction here. This is a Dark Elf. So if you were looking and hoping that this would help you for the Shadowkin, that's not going to work out here. There are really good Dark Elf champions, so this might not be ideal for you or your account unless you're really struggling with the Dark Elf, specifically Shadowkin faction crypt. As far as progression goes, this champion can really be decent. Let's look at her base stats really quick. We have 15,000 base health, 1,000 base defense, nothing crazy. The health is decent, not crazy also, and 98 base speed. So with that being said, this champion is another okay champion. Moving on to Masamoto. Now, this guy attacks 2 times, has a 10 up to a 30% chance of stealing 1 random buff. A2 AoE attack down. This can be very strong for the Shadowkin crypt. And then we have this increase defense and increase turn meter fill of all allies on a 4-turn cooldown. So this champion is going to require books. We have a ton in the A1. I really hate when they do this, but it is what it is. We have 5 in the A2 and we have 2 in the A3 here. So this champion, increased defense, turn meter fill, I like it a lot for that Shadowkin crypt here. The A2, I mean, what's better than a decrease attack on all of your enemies here? Unfortunately, and there's always going to be something I don't like, of course, 50, 60, 70, 75% chance to land. They couldn't have made it 100, I guess, but it is what it is here. Stealing buffs can come in handy depending on which type of stage 21 boss the Shadowkin faction crypt is going to have, so keep that in mind with these champions. Now I do want to show you what the animations of these champions look like because they are pretty cool. So let's head on over to campaign here. Let's start this off, and we are just going to be doing 1 time. Actually, we'll do 1 time speed. This, we have the typical Razin Scarhide flip. Now we are going to use the A2 silent parting here, even though you wouldn't do that in order, of course. This is going to be the AoE attack down. I really like that animation, that really cool slash there. This is going to be the AoE that decreases crit rate and decreases crit damage. So that one's kind of interesting. It's like a glowing blue magical ball. I guess it makes sense because she has a staff there. So moving on to the next skills here, we do have this ally protection buff where I can put on a random ally. And you can even put it on himself, but I don't even know why you would do that. So this is what places the perfect veil on this champion here. And then we're going to increase speed, turn meter, all of that good stuff. This one increases defense of all allies and boosts all the turn meters, which is nice. And this one, once again, increase crit rate, increase crit damage, and a turn meter fail on all allies once again. Now we have these A1s here. We have the typical quick, like, jolt forward that we've seen in many Shadowkin faction champions. Now they're going to get turns, go 2 times speed. Okay, now we have this primal tremor. Let's see what we got. Okay, so it's like a little bit like a Nethril with the better animation as far as what he's doing there. Looks kind of cool overall. Upward slash, nothing too crazy. So I believe those are all of the skills that I just went over. Now we can do 2 times speed. Hit him with the A1, Razin flip. Hit this with the attack 1, will ignore armor, steel parting. Of course, that does hit rather hard here. AoE for attack down. Like I said, this should be 100% chance to land. The fact that it's not bothers me just a little bit. Now, as far as progression goes, I can only really see the AoE attack down champion really helping you guys out here. Based on the kits, you can look at it from your account, determine what's going to be best for you. Now, if you want to know how to build these champions, that would be a very good question. It's going to be pretty straightforward if you do plan on using these champions here. Any champions with a debuff that you think you can definitely get benefit from, I would recommend running accuracy banner, accuracy chest if you can hit those stats. Like I've kind of already showed here, even though it's just for a showcase, speed boots on everyone. Don't ever not run speed boots, especially if you're not endgame. There are certain places you can get it with attack percent boots, HP percent boots, but for the most part, you want everyone in speed boots all of the time. I'm pretty sure most of you know that by now. So champions that are going to hit hard, that don't need to apply any debuffs, it's going to be Umetogi. This is a champion, and this is kind of interesting here, and I do like this a lot. Something like this champion in Relentless gear to really maximize standoff. I think this is a pretty cool ability. I don't think it's on the best champion for this. Yes, we have increased crit rate in all battles, which is nice. Yes, she has a higher crit rate on top of things if she does use this A3 first, and she's going to take 0 damage unless she's fighting a boss. So I do like this a lot. I think you can definitely abuse this in many places. For progression, if you are struggling to get your first stage 20 dungeon runs in, she's blue affinity, so if you're worried about negative affinity, just one-shotting your team, this champion will live because, like it says, decrease the incoming damage to 0, then counterattacks with the default skill. So this is going to apply in arena. This is kind of like a guaranteed, what's the word? Reaction gear. Guaranteed reaction gear in a passive. I'm a bit worried this is in the game, because that means that this can appear on a legendary. Anytime you see anything on any champion, it can always appear on a higher quality. If that doesn't scare you, I don't know what does scare you. So we should be watching this, see how this champion goes, see how people are using this champion. Because like I said, if they release a legendary version with a passive similar to this, we could be in trouble. So that's kind of my thoughts on Umetogi. I think she's really strong. I think she's going to be very good for progression. Now, the Perfect Veil does have a little bit of counter synergy with this because she can't be targeted when she's under this buff, and she takes 0 damage. So this is more likely going to be an AoE prevention thing unless the other team's going first, where you could use it like reaction gear. But the fact that she has increased speed, you're going to want Relentless gear. To be determined. We're going to have to see people in progression accounts testing this, seeing how they like this champion. So that's going to be the rundown of all of these champions here. I guess I can just keep going through gearing. This champion, I would gear full damage and really rely on this. Like I said, Relentless gear, full damage, speed boots. Once again, don't forget about that. As far as this champion here, this is going to be a debuffer and a buffer here. So I would recommend accuracy, speed, HP, defense. You don't really care about crit rate on a champion like this, even though it would help. This isn't a reviver champion, so revivers are usually the only ones you don't want crit rate on. This one I think is going to be an exception here. She does have an AoE, so you could say, what about all the damage you could be missing? But as an epic support based champion, I don't think that's going to be the best use of your resources. So just go for 15% crit rate. Really beef her up if you really want to take advantage of decreased crit rate and decreased crit damage, because it's not a widely used buff and it can be very strong in a lot of progression scenarios. Moving on to Masamoto here. Stealing a random buff is nice. We already went over the attack down, so this champion, pretty self-explanatory. You want accuracy, speed, HP, defense. You more likely than not will want 100% crit rate on this. Defensive-based champions can do a lot of damage. Even if they're only doing a little bit of damage, everything is going to help here. And since he's not applying defense down here, likely you will have the targets debuffed, so he will be able to pump out a little bit of damage. So once again, HP, defense, accuracy, speed. 100% crit rate if you can manage it on your account, and then game, set, match. As far as masteries go, I would honestly run War Master on every single champion here. Besides Umetogi, I do believe she would be something like Helm Smasher or Flawless Execution if you do want that crit damage. Helm Smasher, of course, always going to be the better choice there. So with that being said, these are the epics. Who are you going to go for? Let me know in the comments here. I would love to test these in dungeons, but they're pretty self-explanatory. These aren't crazy champions for, I guess, progression overall, but with the 2 new Shadowkin here, People's rosters are probably pretty dry of Shadowkin, and neither of these champions are bad choices for that crypt if you want some early on progression, so you're not just stuck at level 5, level 6 because you don't have a full team here. So this is going to be the decision that you guys as players are going to have to make to see if it's worth it for you in progressing through that Shadowkin faction. Let me know what you think, give me your feedback. Do you think any of these are impressive for your account specifically? Who's going to be worth going for? I'm going to do the fusion video next, showing you where you can use that champion. Of course, now you're comparing 4 champions to 1 champion, which is usually going to be a hard decision here, but I look forward to getting that video out. As always, guys, if you enjoyed the content, smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I will see you all in my next upload.